Hi class, this is going to be my first PowerPoint, so I'm really excited for it. This time I'm not going to show you my face, only because it's about 1 a.m. and I'm looking pretty haggard here. But for the next ones, hopefully I'll be a little more awake and you guys can see me follow along. So one of the key things we're going to be doing all year is documenting our work for all the projects you're doing. And we're going to do that in your engineering notebook. So everyone should have a bound graph paper notebook. And so that's going to be our engineering notebook for the year. I'm going to be going through this a little quickly because I really want to highlight some key things. Note that it's your responsibility to look at all these PowerPoints separately on your own, but let's get going. All right, engineering notebooks. What do we need to know? First of all, what is it? The key thing I want you to know about an engineering notebook, it's a way to formally document any of your work related to a project, specifically a design project. It's going to have all your research, your ideas, your sketches, your brainstorm notes, your observations, calculations, more specifically, photos. It's going to have everything and anything related to a design project. It's going to be essentially your diary for how something was created and how an idea comes to be. It's also referred to by other titles. It's not going to be too important that you note those, but just know that there are some other ways we name it. It's different than a portfolio. So one of the things we want to make sure is that we do not refer to it as a portfolio. We'll talk a little bit more about that as the year goes on, but don't call it a portfolio. So one of the things I want you guys to look at is this image of an engineering notebook. You'll notice a couple things. There's written ideas, so a lot of nice, neat writing related to this. There's also a lot of research finding, a lot of sketches, a lot of annotations on it. So things like this, you'll note that they have annotations pointing to the actual sketches themselves. A lot of interview information. Maybe you won't be able to read this just yet, but there'll be an assignment related to this where you can review it a little closer. So there's CAD printouts, test results, photographs. Here's another image of it. Again, you're going to look at these images a little later and try to analyze and reflect on it yourself. But start taking a look at some of the things it has. So one of the things that we should know is why we keep it. And this is actually key. So I'm going to underline the key part. Or maybe I'll box it since I did not make a very good underline. It's a legal document. It's used in patent activities. That means that if two rival companies were to come up with a solution at the same time, let's say Apple and Microsoft or Apple and Windows came up with an idea at the same exact time, well, who gets the patent? Who gets to move forward with the idea? What's the first one to come up with it? Well, since they're both working in separate buildings, how do you prove that? That's where an engineering notebook comes into play. And that could be true for anything. I mean, that could be true for your future invention. You might beat someone in market because you came up with the idea first and be able to be the millionaire or billionaire in the future. So it's important that you know it's a legal document. And it's a way for you to be able to prove in a court case that you actually created the idea all on your own, and that all these ideas are just yours and you didn't steal it from somebody. There's other ideas why we prove it, but I kind of went over the main things. Key thing is, unfortunately, if a member dies, you kind of want to know their work. It's also, if you're working in a team, you want to be able to keep track of it. If you've been working over an idea for years, you know, some ideas take decades to become real. You're going to forget some of the stuff you worked on. So it's your kind of dear diary for how your ideas were documented and how they came to be. College students keep it, high school students keep it, like yourself, but R&D people that are in research and development will keep it because they work in teams. So it might be important to know who keeps it. But it really is going to help you. It's going to help you with your time management. It's going to help you formulate and document your ideas. And it's going to really help you with the design process. So I'm really excited for you to practice with your engineering notebooks. So let's go over a couple key things. Bound, quadrile, lined, grid pages. That just means graph paper, fancy way to say it. Our engineering notebook is going to be graph paper. You're going to see individual pages labeled. So you'll see up here that every page is going to be numbered. You're going to see a location for signatures. So you, or whoever the designer is of this page, is going to sign it and date it the day that they completed this page. So you don't sign and date it until you're complete with the page and ready to move on to the next page. The day that you show it to a witness, they're going to sign it and date it. These two dates do not need to be the same. So this date and this date can be different because the witness signs it the day they witnessed it, not the day you created it. There's going to be locations for identifying if you what page you previously continued from and what page your work is going to. It's important to know that if you're keeping track of one concept, you know what previous pages I could look to or what pages moving forward I can reference. Lastly, the proprietary information. Our notebook's not going to have that, but a lot of pre-bought ones will include that. There's 14 rules I'll go over pretty quickly, highlighting the key ones, spending a little more time. Number every page sequentially, 125, 126, 127. So if you're 180 pages in your notebook, 1 through 180, that's going to be on the top right or top left of the page. Notebooks are bound, no spiral notebooks. I don't want to see spiral notebooks. If you have one, I'm going to take points away every single time. No pages are going to be removed for any reason. Don't ever rip a page off. Keep it in a safe place. If you finish up with your notebook, pick up with a new one right where you left off. I'll help you out with that one. And any figures and calculations are clearly labeled. Note how neatly this is done. This is not scribbles. This is clear and neat. Entries go from top to bottom, right to left to right, so that's pretty straightforward. This is not a manga. No markers, blue or black ink only, blue or black. So blue or black. Very important that we note that only. We're going to use red sometimes though, just because we're going to correct it, but in a formal engineering notebook you would never use another color but blue or black ink. All photos or inserts that you're going to have should be glued or taped. I actually do not think glue is preferred. I'm going to cross that off. I think tape is preferred. It just lasts longer. The glue I've had more issues with. I thought glue was better, but tape is actually my preferred method. Date on each entry. So if you wrote down 515, you're going to label it as such. Make sure mistakes, if you make a mistake, like you spell something incorrectly, like let's say I try to spell my name and mess up, I would just simply put one line across it, spell it correctly, and then initial that I made the change. Almost looks like a bad word. Consistent recordings, so be consistent with it. Each page is signed and dated. That's why we have the document on the bottom. So you need to sign it and date it. The witness needs to sign and date it. And your colleague should corroborate. So that's number 14. Pretty straightforward. We'll talk about some of the key points, but that's it. Be neat, be accurate, be legible, and be thorough. All right. Thank you so much. And I appreciate your time.